Business titan Caleb Stone was reborn, returning to the very day he divorced his estranged, ice-cold wife, Victoria Sterling. In his previous life, he had misunderstood her, resented her, and eventually, after his life fell apart, realized too late that her love for him ran deeper than the ocean. In this life, however, he had accidentally acquired the sincerity redemption system, granting him the ability to hear Victoria's every thought. Surface, Caleb, sign it. We don't owe each other anything anymore. Inner voice, you idiot, tear it up. Hurry, please don't leave. I can't survive without you. Hearing the tearful plea that contradicted her cold words, Caleb tore the divorce agreement into shreds and pulled her tightly into his arms. Victoria, this time, I'm never letting go. Cold. Bone-piercing cold. Caleb's eyes snapped open. He was greeted by a familiar, yet strange ceiling, the air thick with a peculiar scent of disinfectant mixed with expensive aromatherapy. Shouldn't he be dead, consumed by that inferno? In the final moments of his life, the last thing he saw was his ex-wife, Victoria, rushing into the fire, shielding him with her fragile body before the collapsing beam buried them both. Victoria! He roared, bolting upright in bed. His chest heaved violently, cold sweat soaking the back of his shirt. You're awake? A crisp, detached voice came from his side. It carried no warmth, striking Caleb like a bolt of lightning. He turned his stiff neck and saw the woman who had been the source of his lifetime of regret, Victoria Sterling. She was alive. She wore a perfectly tailored white dress, her long hair cascading like a waterfall, framing a stunningly beautiful face that seemed colder than ever. Only her eyes, usually as placid as a still lake, held a trace of redness that was hard to detect. She was thinner. Caleb felt as if a giant hand were crushing his heart, the pain making it nearly impossible to breathe. Is this? His voice was raspy as he looked around. This wasn't a hospital. It was the guest bedroom of the Sterling estate in the Hamptons, the place they had called home after their wedding. Victoria didn't answer. She simply placed a document and a pen on the nightstand. Her movements were gentle, yet they carried an undeniable finality. Caleb, sign it. It was the divorce agreement. The bold black letters stung Caleb's eyes like red-hot nails. The scene was agonizingly familiar. In his past life, it was on this very day, during the Sterling family's annual gala, that he had exploded in rage. Provoked by Victoria's cousin, Preston Sterling, and feeling looked down upon as the trophy husband, living off his wife's fortune, he had publicly humiliated himself and severed ties with her. He had gotten drunk, caused a scene, fallen down the stairs, and when he woke up, Victoria was there with this agreement. Back then, blinded by anger and misplaced pride, he had signed it without hesitation, yelling, "I've had enough of you," before storming out. He hadn't known that day was Victoria's birthday. He hadn't known that Victoria had withstood pressure from the entire board to protect him. And he certainly hadn't known that after he left, this woman, who always appeared so strong and indifferent, had collapsed in the room, crying her heart out. He was back at the starting point of all his tragedies. Why aren't you saying anything? Seeing him stare blankly at the papers, Victoria frowned slightly, her eyes devoid of emotion. Read the terms. The villa, one of the cars, and $5 million in cash. They're all yours. Let's just end this amicably. Caleb's Adam's apple bopped. He wanted to apologize, to tell her how much he regretted everything, but the words stuck in his throat, turning into a bitter acidity. Just then, a mechanical electronic voice resonated in his mind. Ding! Host's intense regret and desire for compensation detected. Sincerity redemption system activated. Newbie mission. Refuse to sign the divorce agreement and embrace your wife, Victoria Sterling. Mission reward. Unlock mind-reading capability. A system? Caleb froze. He looked at Victoria's cold, impassive face with a mix of emotions. Dream or not, he would never make the same mistake twice. I'm not signing. Caleb's voice wasn't loud, but it was incredibly firm. Victoria was visibly startled, clearly not expecting a refusal. She lowered her gaze, her long lashes casting shadows that hid her emotions. Caleb, stop this. It's for the best. For both of us. Her voice carried a hint of exhaustion. You idiot. Say you love me. Say you won't leave me. Please. Just one word from you, and I'll tear this stupid paper to pieces. What was that sound? Caleb snapped his head up, looking at Victoria in shock. Her lips were pressed tight. She hadn't spoken a word. Where was that tearful, pleading voice coming from? Why is he looking at me like that? Does he find me annoying? I guess so. I'm always so cold. He must be sick of me, but I don't know how else to treat him. Preston and the others always bully him. I have to force him away. Maybe if he leaves the Sterling family, he can finally live with some dignity. But I can't bear it. I really can't bear to let him go. Caleb's eyes instantly reddened. So, that was it. Beneath her icy exterior lay such a humble, burning love. She wasn't abandoning him. She was trying to save him from the toxic mud pit of her family. And what had he done in his past life? Like a fool, he had personally destroyed all her painstaking efforts. Victoria. Caleb's voice trembled. He threw off the covers, ignoring the throbbing pain in his forehead, and stepped onto the cold floor barefoot, walking toward her step by step. Victoria was startled by his sudden movement. She instinctively took a step back, her face recovering its frosty, distant mask. What are you doing? Just sign the... She couldn't finish her sentence. Caleb reached out and pulled her fiercely into his arms. He used all his strength, as if trying to embed this lost and found treasure directly into his soul. Victoria's body went rigid. The documents in her hand scattered across the floor. She could clearly feel the heat radiating from his chest and the violent thumping of his heart. The scent of him, familiar and safe, enveloped her. He's hugging me. It's so warm. I didn't know he was this warm. Am I dreaming? What do I do? My heart is beating so fast. Can he hear it? This is so embarrassing. Hearing the panicked, girlish thoughts in his head, Caleb couldn't hold back a low chuckle that rumbled in his chest, filled with suppressed joy and tenderness. He rested his chin on the top of her head, took a deep breath, and spoke softly but with absolute solemnity. Victoria, I'm sorry. I was a jerk before. The woman in his arms trembled slightly. He apologized? He actually apologized to me? It's not a dream. None of this is a dream. A warm dampness seeped through Caleb's thin shirt. She was crying. Ding. Newbie mission complete. Reward. Mind reading feature permanently unlocked. Host can now hear Victoria Sterling's inner thoughts at any time. Main quest. Repair all regrets and grow old with Victoria. Current side mission 1. Uncover the truth of the gala incident. Clear Victoria's name. And make the instigator, Preston Sterling, pay the price. Mission reward. $10 million cash. Master level antique appraisal skill. Hearing the system prompts, Caleb's eyes turned cold. Preston Sterling. He remembered now. In his previous life, right after he signed the papers and left, Preston had launched an attack at the gala. He produced a forged contract, framing Victoria for embezzlement and accusing her of draining company funds to cover a failed project. The losses were massive. Victoria, already heartbroken from the divorce, was blindsided. Attacked by Preston and the uncles, she couldn't defend herself. In the end, her grandfather, Silas Sterling, stripped her of all her positions in the company. And he, the husband who should have been her shield, was getting blackout drunk in a dive bar, completely ignorant of her suffering. This time, history would not repeat itself. Victoria, Caleb released her slightly, cupping her tear-stained face. He used his thumbs to gently wipe away her tears. Don't cry. Today, no one is going to bully you ever again. Victoria looked up at him with misty eyes, confused. What does he mean? Does he know something? Caleb didn't explain. He simply took her hand, her skin soft and boneless against his, and felt a surge of emotion. Let's go. We're going back to the gala. It's time some people paid what they owe. The Sterling estate was brightly lit and crowded with guests. When Caleb walked into the banquet hall holding Victoria's hand, the noise seemed to hit a mute button. Countless eyes turned toward them, filled with shock, disdain, and schadenfreude. Isn't that Victoria's deadbeat husband? He actually has the nerve to show his face. I heard he caused a huge scene at the office this afternoon. Victoria was so mad, she demanded a divorce on the spot. How are they acting like nothing happened? Look at that suit. Off the rack, right? Probably from a department store. He's an embarrassment to the Sterling name. The whispered gossip felt like needles pricking the ears. The Caleb of the past would have withered under these gazes, turning his shame into defensive anger, lashing out at everyone like a cornered animal. But now, Caleb's state of mind was entirely different. He could clearly feel Victoria's hand beside him turn ice cold, her body tensing up. They're talking about Caleb again. It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, he wouldn't be looked down upon like this. Caleb, please don't lose your temper. Just endure it a little longer. Once I deal with Preston, we'll leave this place. We'll go somewhere where no one knows us, okay? Caleb's heart warmed. He squeezed her small hand tighter and whispered so only she could hear, don't be afraid. I've got you. Victoria trembled. She looked up at him. His profile was chiseled and steady, his eyes holding not a trace of retreat or anger, only a deep, bottomless calm. It was as if the malicious speculation around them was nothing more than a breeze blowing over a hill. He really was different. Well, if it isn't my favorite brother-in-law. I thought you wouldn't have the face to come back. A sarcastic voice cut through the air. Preston Sterling approached, swaying slightly with a glass of red wine in hand. He looked Caleb up and down, making no effort to hide the contempt in his eyes. And Victoria, really? How could you let him show up dressed like that? People might think the Sterling family can't even afford a decent suit anymore. Victoria's expression darkened instantly. She was about to speak when Caleb gently pressed her hand. Caleb looked at Preston, his face expressionless. He spoke calmly. What my wife and I wear doesn't seem to be any of your business, cousin. Or are you so idle at the company lately that you've forgotten your boundaries? The smile on Preston's face froze. He hadn't expected this useless man, who usually cowered before him and blushed at the slightest confrontation, to actually talk back. You. Preston's face flushed red. Caleb, who do you think you are, talking to me like that? Who am I? Caleb tugged at the corner of his mouth, revealing a cold sneer. I am Victoria's legal husband, and the grandson-in-law recognized by grandfather Silas. As for you, cousin, you spend company money on booze and women, leaving a mess for Victoria to clean up. Who exactly are you? His voice wasn't loud, but it was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, creating 1,000 ripples. The surrounding guests were stunned, and the whispers grew louder. Everyone in their circle had heard rumors of Preston's messy, private life, but no one dared mention it in front of the Sterlings. You're slandering me. Preston panicked. He hadn't expected Caleb to know any of this. Whether it's slander or not, you know best. Caleb's gaze scraped across Preston's guilty face like a knife. Last month on the South City project, you embezzled $3 million. In the end, Victoria had to use her own dividends to plug the hole. Don't need to show everyone the evidence. The blood drained from Preston's face. He had covered his tracks perfectly. How did this loser know? He looked helplessly at Victoria, only to find her looking equally shocked. How does he know about the South City project? I didn't tell anyone. Did he investigate secretly? When did he start caring about my affairs? Victoria's mind was in turmoil. She looked at Caleb with a complex gaze. There was shock, confusion, but mostly a strange sense of security. Enough! A commanding voice boomed. Silas Sterling, the patriarch of the family, walked over with a cane, supported by the butler. His sharp eyes swept over the room, finally landing on the pale-faced Preston. Making a racket at a family banquet. Have you no dignity? Preston, come to my study. Preston looked as if he'd been granted a pardon, though he shot a venomous glare at Caleb before scurrying off behind the old man. The storm had passed for now. Caleb looked down at Victoria, finding her staring blankly at him. What's wrong? He asked gently. He was just so cool. So he wasn't incapable of fighting back. He just didn't think those people were worth his time before. My husband isn't so useless after all. Hearing these adorable thoughts, Caleb felt his mood soar. He suppressed a smile and deliberately put on a serious face. What? Mesmerized by your husband's heroism. Victoria's face turned crimson instantly. She quickly lowered her head, though her mouth remained sharp. Don't talk nonsense. I didn't expect you to have such a sharp tongue. How did he know what I was thinking? So embarrassing. My heart is beating even faster. Caleb watched her shy reaction, thinking she was incredibly cute. Beneath that iceberg lay a dormant volcano. Teasing his wife was turning out to be very interesting. If every meeting in the world is a reunion, then every reevaluation is like lifting a dusty veil to see the brilliance hidden beneath. But the incident at the banquet was just the beginning. Caleb knew Preston's Real kill shot was still coming. Sure enough, after the grandfather finished his lecture, the banquet continued. When Preston emerged from the study, his face was still ugly, but deep in his eyes, there was a vicious determination. He walked straight onto the small stage in the center of the banquet hall and grabbed the microphone. Uncles, aunts, distinguished guests. Taking advantage of grandfather's birthday today, I have a major announcement regarding the future of the company. Everyone's attention was drawn again. Victoria's brows knit together tightly. What is he doing? Is he going to attack now? Caleb patted the back of her hand, signaling her to relax. He picked up a glass of juice and sipped it slowly, his eyes locking on Preston like a falcon. Everyone knows my cousin, Victoria, has been the executive CEO of Sterling Corp. She is talented and has done great work for the company. Preston started with fake praise before pivoting sharply. However, recently, a major overseas investment by the company has suffered a loss reaching 9 figures due to Victoria's error in judgment. Boom! The crowd went into an uproar. 9 figures. That was over $100 million. That's not all. Preston's voice rose to a shout, pointing a finger at Victoria, his face a mask of pained disappointment. To fill this hole, she used the company's liquid capital to speculate on high-risk virtual currency. And now, that money is completely gone. This is embezzlement. This is a crime. He pulled a stack of printed documents from his pocket and held them high. Here is the evidence of all her transactions. The proof is irrefutable. In an instant, every gaze turned into a sword, stabbing toward Victoria. Accusations, doubts, anger. Victoria's face went pale, her body swaying as if she might faint. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. It wasn't me. I strongly opposed that investment. It was Preston and Uncle Arthur who forced it through. And that crypto account isn't mine. I don't know anything about it. It's a setup, a total frame-up. Her mind was screaming, but on the surface, she just bit her lip, stubbornly refusing to show any weakness. In the past life, this ironclad evidence had left her unable to defend herself. And he, Caleb, had been the final straw that broke her. He had rushed up, pointed at her nose, and called her a vicious woman who would do anything for money. Thinking of this, Caleb's heart ached so much he could barely breathe. Clap, clap, clap. Slow, crisp applause rang out abruptly in the silent banquet hall. Everyone turned to the sound. Caleb was clapping as he stood up, a playful smile on his face. Brilliant, truly brilliant. Caleb walked slowly toward the stage. Cousin, this script you've written has everything. Ups and downs, emotional impact. If I didn't know better, I'd think you were running for Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars. Preston's face darkened. Caleb, what do you mean? The facts are right here. Are you trying to cover for her? Cover for her? Caleb chuckled lightly, snatching the stack of so-called evidence from Preston's hand and flipping through it. Based on this trash, he held up one of the papers for the crowd to see. Ladies and gentlemen, look. This is the evidence of the so-called investment error. It claims Victoria pushed this project through against all advice. But as far as I know, during the board meeting half a month ago, Victoria was the only one who opposed it. On the contrary, it was you, Preston, along with several other directors, who championed this project and signed a performance guarantee, promising to personally cover any losses. The meeting minutes should still be on file. Shall we have the secretary bring them over for a reading? Preston's pupils constricted violently. The minutes. How could he forget that? He thought he had already won. He hadn't taken Victoria's opposition seriously at all. As for this, Caleb picked up another document regarding the virtual currency account, his eyes sharpening. The registration for this account does use Victoria's identity information. However, the mobile number bound to the registration ends in 8888. And if I recall correctly, that number belongs to a burner phone you started using 2 months ago, doesn't it, cousin? What a coincidence. You're lying. I don't know what you're talking about. Preston began to stammer, cold sweat sliding down his temples. You don't know. Caleb pressed forward, step by step. Then this transfer record is even more interesting. The funds left the company account, entered this crypto wallet, and then were immediately transferred to an offshore shell company. And the owner of this offshore shell company. Unluckily for you, I happen to know who it is. Caleb paused, his gaze sweeping over the pale faces of several directors in the audience before finally landing on Preston's father, Victoria's uncle, Arthur Sterling. Uncle Arthur, you know, don't you? Dead silence filled the room. Arthur's face turned the color of a corpse. No one in the room was a fool. By this point, the truth was glaringly obvious. This was a conspiracy carefully orchestrated by Preston and his father in collusion with certain board members to take down Victoria and embezzle company assets. Who are you really? Preston stared at Caleb as if looking at a monster. These hidden details, the interlocking chain of evidence. How did this useless, live-in son-in-law know all of it? It was impossible. Caleb didn't answer him. He turned around and walked to Victoria, who was still in a state of shock. He gently took her hand and kissed the back of it. I told you. Today, no one touches you. Victoria's eyes instantly welled up. He knew everything. He knew it all along. He's not useless. He's been watching over me, protecting me silently. I'm such an idiot. I actually tried to push him away. I almost lost the best thing in my world. Hearing the thick, dissolving love and relief in her thoughts, Caleb's heart filled with an unprecedented sense of happiness. He knew that from this moment on, the invisible wall between him and Victoria had completely collapsed. Up at the head table, Grandfather Silas Sterling watched Caleb's back, a gleam of sharp appraisal flashing through his weathered eyes. He remained silent for a long time. simply lifting his teacup for a sip. This grandson-in-law of his ran deep. Following the storm, the Sterling family underwent a massive earthquake. Preston and Arthur, along with the conspiring directors, were expelled from Sterling Court by the grandfather's thunderous decree and handed over to the authorities. The family underwent a complete purge, and Caleb became famous overnight. The label of useless son-in-law was shredded. In its place came titles like Hidden Dragon, Master Strategist, and Wife Protector. No one in the Sterling family dared to show him an ounce of disrespect. Night deepened. In the master bedroom of the villa, only a dim bedside lamp remained on. Victoria stepped out of the bathroom to find Caleb sitting by the bed, reading one of her favorite economics books with keen interest. The light outlined his focused profile, giving him a scholarly elegance. Hearing her, Caleb looked up. She was wearing a silk nightgown, her wet hair draped over her shoulders, water droplets sliding down her collarbone and disappearing into the neckline. His throat tightened involuntarily. "Come here." He reached out a hand. Victoria's cheeks heated up, but she walked over obediently and sat beside him. "What does he want? Looking at me like that? My heart is going to jump out of my chest." Caleb took the towel from her hand and gently dried her long hair. The fresh scent of her shampoo lingered in the air, stirring his senses. "Victoria," he spoke suddenly. Her voice was as quiet as a mosquito's hum. "Let's start a family." Victoria's body stiffened. She looked up, staring at him in disbelief. "A family? A baby? He wants to have a baby with me, but didn't he always hate being tied down by the Sterlings? If we have a child, he really can't leave. Does he truly want to spend his life with me?" A series of questions and joys exploded in her heart, leaving her mind blank. Caleb looked into her shimmering eyes, leaned down, and pressed his forehead against hers. His voice was low and husky. "Before, I was immature and let you suffer too much. From now on, let me protect you. Let me protect our home." Okay. He didn't use flowery poetry, just a simple promise. But to Victoria, this moved her heart more than any sweet nothings could. She couldn't control her emotions any longer. She wrapped her arms tightly around his neck, buried her face in the crook of his shoulder, and nodded vigorously. "Okay. One word, heavy as gold. Caleb, I love you. I always have." Hearing this confession, delayed by an entire lifetime, Caleb's eyes grew misty. He lowered his head and captured her cool, soft lips. It was a night of tenderness. The next morning, Caleb woke to the sound of urgent system notifications. Ding! Side mission 1 complete. Reward: $10 million deposited into host's linked bank account. Master-level antique appraisal skill unlocked. New side mission: establish your own company and achieve profitability within 1 month. Reward: God-level programming tech, 1 mysterious blueprint. Caleb looked at Victoria, sleeping peacefully in his arms, and a confident smile curled his lips. His own company? Perfect. He didn't just want to be Victoria's shield. He wanted to stand shoulder to shoulder with her, reaching a height where he could weather any storm for her. In his past life, he had been aimless and accomplished nothing. In this life, he would reclaim everything that belonged to him and build a commercial empire that would make the world take notice. 1 month later, a company named Vertex Tech was quietly established in a prime downtown office tower. The founder was Caleb Stone. The startup capital was the $10 million from a system reward. No one thought highly of this obscure little company, especially after learning the founder was the Sterling family's son-in-law. The circle assumed it was just pocket money Victoria gave him to play pretend business. Profitability in a month? Who does he think he is? Warren Buffett. Exactly. The market is terrible right now. Even Big Core are struggling. What can an amateur like him do? Just wait. Within 3 months, that $10 million will be down the drain. Facing the rumors, Caleb turned a deaf ear. Using the God-level programming tech from the system, he worked alone for 2 weeks to develop an intelligent office software named Synapse. This software possessed collaborative efficiency and data processing capabilities far beyond anything on the market. Its AI-assisted decision-making, in particular, reached an unbelievable level of sophistication. At the product launch, when Caleb personally demonstrated how Synapse could process a medium-sized enterprise's weekly reports in 1 minute and automatically generate optimized growth strategies, the room went silent. Everyone was stunned speechless by the software's power. On the day of the launch, Vertex Tech's website crashed from traffic. Orders flew in like snowflakes from all over the country. 1 week later, the company's cash flow broke $50 million. 1 month later, that number hit $200 million. Vertex Tech became an overnight sensation. For the first time, The name Caleb Stone appeared in major financial headlines as a successful entrepreneur. The entire business world was shaken. Those who had mocked him shut their mouths, their faces burning as if they'd been slapped. Meanwhile, in the CEO's office at Sterling Corp, Victoria looked at the news reports about Caleb and Vertex Tech on her phone. A smile that could outshine a field of flowers blossomed on her cold face. My husband is the most amazing man in the world. I knew he wasn't ordinary. Give him a chance and he'll soar. I really want to see him right now. And give him a big hug. The office door was pushed open gently. Caleb walked in holding a bouquet of bright red roses. What are you thinking about? He asked with a smile. Victoria's eyes lit up. She stood up from her executive chair and flew into his arms like a bird returning to its nest. What are you doing here? She buried her face in his chest, her voice muffled. Missed you, so I came. Caleb handed her the flowers and kissed her forehead. And to pick up my queen from work. My queen. He's so smooth. I love it when he calls me that. Victoria's heart was bubbling with sweetness, though she feigned composure. Who's your queen? Smooth talker. Caleb chuckled low and pinched her nose. Let's go. I'm cooking tonight. Your favorite, sweet and sour ribs. Okay. Victoria nodded obediently, actively taking his hand and interlocking their fingers. The setting sun spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, stretching their shadows long across the floor. Life was peaceful and beautiful. However, Caleb didn't get lost in the temporary success. He knew that the fall of Preston and his father was just the beginning of the internal conflicts within the Sterling family. The wolves hiding in the shadows were still watching hungrily, specifically the mastermind who, in the previous life, had dragged the Sterling group into the abyss. He had to become stronger fast, strong enough to handle any unknown risk. The mysterious blueprint, rewarded by the system, might be the key. Late that night in the study, Caleb spread the mysterious blueprint from the system inventory onto the desk. The material of the blueprint was neither metal nor paper, warm to the touch. It was covered in circuit diagrams and structures so complex they defied logic, along with symbols he couldn't read at all. It looked like a design for a microchip, but the precision and complexity were far beyond the world's current peak technology, at least 20 years ahead. Epic-making technology. Caleb muttered, excitement flashing in his eyes. If he could manufacture what was on this blueprint, Vertex Tech wouldn't just be a successful software company. It would become a tech giant capable of changing the global landscape. But the problem was, with Earth's current technological level and industrial base, manufacturing such a precise chip was impossible. Ding. Difficulty detected. Hidden condition triggered. Special mission. Within 1 month, acquire the bankrupt photolithography R&D company, Lumina Optronics, and locate the key figure Dr. Elias Vance. Reward. Unlock Phase 1 blueprint analysis and obtain entry-level chip manufacturing tech. Lumina Optronics. Elias Vance. Caleb immediately opened his computer to search. He found them quickly. Lumina Optronics was once a rising star in the domestic optical field, and its founder, Elias Vance, was a genius scientist. But due to foreign tech blockades and a broken capital chain, the company was drowning in debt and on the verge of bankruptcy. Dr. Vance himself had collapsed from exhaustion and stress. He was currently in the hospital, kept alive by expensive medication. In his previous life, Caleb vaguely remembered hearing this name. It seemed that soon after this point in time, the genius scientist had died in despair, unable to pay his medical bills, a massive loss for the nation's tech industry. I understand. Caleb's gaze hardened. This wasn't just a system mission. It was a chance to save a genius and bring glory to his country's industry. He would not let the tragedy repeat itself. The next day, Caleb mobilized all of his company's liquid capital and took out a massive personal loan, scraping together $500 million. He personally led a team to find the interim manager of Lumina Optronics. The negotiations went incredibly smoothly. For a company rotten to the core, finding someone willing to pay $500 million to take over was like manna from heaven. The contract was signed quickly. Caleb formally became the new owner of Lumina Optronics. Immediately after, he rushed to the hospital and found Elias Vance's ward. In a hospital bed, the once spirited genius was now a withered old man, skin and bones, his eyes dim. Dr. Vance. Caleb walked to the bed and bowed deeply. Dr. Vance's cloudy eyes moved. He looked at the young man. You are. I am a new owner of Lumina. My name is Caleb Stone. Caleb spoke directly. I'm here to ask you to come out of retirement and continue leading the R&D on the lithography machine. A flicker of light passed through Vance's eyes, but it dimmed quickly. He smiled self-deprecatingly. Come out of retirement? Look at me. How can I do research? Besides, it's useless. Our tech, our equipment. We are too far behind the foreign giants. It's a chasm we cannot cross. His words were filled with deep despair. No. Caleb interrupted him, eyes burning. Chasms are meant to be crossed. If we don't have the tech, we start from scratch. If the equipment fails, we build our own. If money is the issue, I'll find it. I have only one requirement. You must live. Caleb placed a prepared check on the nightstand. This is $100 million for your medical treatment and your family. If it's not enough, I'll add more. Just nod, and the world's best medical team will fly here tomorrow for a consultation. Dr. Vance, I need you. Our country needs you. Elias Vance stared at the check, then looked up at Caleb's sincere, unwavering eyes. His cracked lips trembled, and slowly, a light began to rekindle in his muddy gaze. It was a light called hope. Okay, one word, as if using all his remaining strength. I accept. Ding. Special mission complete. Reward. Phase 1 blueprint analysis unlocked. Entry-level chip manufacturing tech granted. A massive stream of information flooded Caleb's mind. Countless details about photolithography, etching, and thin film deposition appeared clearly before his eyes. He had succeeded. He had not only saved a national treasure of a scientist, but also obtained the key to breaking the technology blockade. The era of the advanced microchip was about to begin, right in his hands. Timeline projection. 6 months later. With Caleb's spare-no-expense investment and the efforts of Dr. Vance's team, the first domestic high-end lithography machine with completely independent intellectual property rights successfully rolled off the line at the Lumina lab. The news shook the world. Caleb and Victoria's relationship grew deeper by the day, and Victoria's baby bump was already showing. Everything was as beautiful as a dream. Back in the present, late that night, Caleb had just soothed a drowsy Victoria to sleep and went to the study alone. Habitually, he opened the system panel to check for new missions. However, a line of blood-red text he had never seen before appeared on the interface. Ultimate choice mission triggered. Host has effectively repaired all major regrets. System is preparing to enter dormancy. Before dormancy, host may make one final choice. Option: total honesty. Confess everything to Victoria about your rebirth and the system. Leave the future of your relationship in the hands of both parties. Risk: Victoria may not accept the long-term deception, leading to a rupture in the relationship. Option B: perfect fairy tale. Deplete all system energy to wipe specific memory fragments from Victoria's mind regarding the negativity of your past life and your abnormal behavior since rebirth. Permanently disable the mind-reading function. From now on, your love will be without blemish, perfect and flawless. Risk: you will forever carry this secret alone, living in a real lie woven by your own hands. Please make a choice within 24 hours. Countdown begins. Looking at the flashing countdown on the panel, Caleb's pupils constricted. Subconsciously, he turned his head to look toward the bedroom. Through the crack in the door, warm, soft light spilled out. Inside lay the woman he loved most in this life, carrying their unborn child. Should he choose the absolute truth that might destroy everything, or select an eternal, albeit fabricated, perfect happiness? For the first time since his rebirth, cold sweat beaded on Caleb's forehead.